Most of the photographs you're about to see are photos from the Bazell Brothers collection, pictures and cards shared by Valley Springs residents and others, and the results of many hours on eBay. In 1862, the Congress passed the Homestead Act. This allowed anyone to file for a quarter section or 160 acres of land. The land was yours at the end of 5 years. If you built a dwelling, dug a well, broke 10 acres of land, fenced a specified amount, and actually lived there. In addition, a person could claim an additional quarter of land by timber culture, known as a tree claim. This required the planting of 10 acres of timber. It was at this time Valley Springs became known as the front door to South Dakota. Surprisingly, the settlers came in the back door around 1870s. They came by steamboat up the Missouri River to Sioux City and walked up to Sioux Falls to file a claim. One of the earliest settlers was John Samuelson. He came in 1869 and built a dugout at the site of the Beaver Creek Nature Center. The cabin still stands there. Due to the lack of trees, most of the dwellings in this area were dugouts. A typical dugout was built into the side of a hill, possibly dug down up to 4 feet with a good water supply close by. It was very small, around 10 feet by 12 feet. It normally had a sod front and twigs and branches covered by sod for a roof. The first 3 pictures are South Dakota, but not Valley Springs area. This is an early western South Dakota group of sod buildings and some shanty-type buildings. The soddies were small, made from about 12-inch by 18-inch sod bricks. Packing crates were used for doors and windows, with greased paper for windows. The floors were packed dirt. Bugs and snakes were numerous, and dirt constantly falling in the food. The dried walls were smoothed by an axe, covered with wet mud and sometimes whitewashed or covered with old newspapers. This is a typical claim shack with a well, fencing, broke ground, all required under the Homestead Act. This is a larger log building, probably a store of some type. Log houses were comfortable, usually with a dirt floor and a small sleeping loft. About 1869-1870, the first stage came through Valley Springs on the Military Road. This ran from Worthington to Fort Randall. The trail through Valley Springs was called the Post Road. It's currently known as Cliff Street. The first businesses were built on this road and consisted of a long framed house used as a post office, saloon. A blacksmith shop was there, a stage stop. The lumber was hauled here by oxen on a marked trail from Sibley, Iowa. The main street was later moved 1 block south to Broadway. This is an 1892 photo showing John Ziegler and a friend holding a mule in front of the Hetland General Store. L.S. Hetland is shown under the gas streetlight. He came to Valley Springs about 1881 and worked for the store on the Post Road. He built his own store on the new Main Street in 1885. The bank closed in 1895, was used as a school until 1900. L.S. Hetland reorganized the Minnehaha County Bank, and he had it in his store until it went back to the bank building about 1900. Joe Urquhart was a clerk at the Hetland store, and he went around the Valley Springs vicinity selling wares from the store. This is a picture of Joe's wagon. It was taken on the Bazell farm and shows Elijah Bazell on the left. He was a Civil War veteran and homesteaded just north of Valley Springs 1 mile in a dugout. In 1902, Joe and Cini bought a quarter section west of Valley Springs. They had the Cloverleaf Dairy, delivering milk in town with a horse and a buggy. This picture shows Joe's daughter Stella and the horse Old Fred. In 1907, he was a deputy sheriff for Minnehaha County and the first justice of the peace in Valley Springs. The office is approximately where the post office is now and shows Joe here reading a newspaper. He's a very good auctioneer, and in later years he had a small cafe where Dave Cook now lives. This featured Cini's pies for 5 cents a slice. This is a picture of the Valley Springs Hotel. I'm not sure of its location. It has a sign on the building down the street advertising E.W. Schmidt and Company hardware store. It looks like a church at the far end of the street. In June of 1878, the railroad came to town. The boom was on. Billy Doolittle was the first engineer. He's shown here with his fireman Andrew Pedersen. He served that post until his retirement in 1915. He also served for a while as the mayor of Sioux Falls. The depot was built to the east of Cassidy Park, named after George Cassidy, the first depot agent. The depot still stands south of Valley Springs on 267th Avenue. This picture shows left to right the Valley Springs roller mill, the water tank for the steam engines, the Hubbard Palmer elevator which burned down, the depot, and to the right, the Eli Harris blacksmith shop, the bank, and 2 stores. This picture of the depot shows a fraternal hall in the background to the left, and the depot and the Valley Springs elevator above. This is a picture of one of the 2 blacksmith shops we had. One on the west side of the town was operated by Eli Jones, and the one on the east side of town operated by Eli Harris. I guess if you were an Eli, you were a blacksmith. They built buggies, wagons, and road carts. They also were agencies for the Deering binders, Cooper wagons, Jones lever binders, Jones chain drive mowers, and Flyer bicycles. They were said to be the best in the country. You can see the grindstone, anvils, forge, with a small grinder and a post drill being driven by a jack shaft. Bicycles were a popular form of travel in the early 1900s. This fella here has quite a set of biking clothes. This photo of the Valley Springs roller mill was taken around 1890. It was 4 stories high, had 10,000 square feet of floor space and a capacity of 100 barrels of flour a day. They shipped 4 brands of flour to the larger cities out east and some to foreign countries. At its peak, it ran 24 hours a day. This is another shot of the mill with 7 teams in a row. This was approximately where the round tin building is that belongs to the Farmer's Elevator now. The mill was the first in the county and possibly in the state. It had the first electric light in Valley Springs. The engineer, Casper Ziegler, mounted a small dynamo on the wall and hooked it to a belt by the main shaft in the mill. This is a very large gas engine and was probably the one used in the mill. Note the belt pulley and the flywheel of the engine. It was a 4-horse Fairbanks Morse engine. This photo shows some kids playing on the east side of the roller mill. This picture, taken from where the bank building is now, looking east, shows a farmer's elevator, the Hubbard Palmer elevator, and the roller mill in the distance. The fraternal hall is to the right. Anton Olson had a grocery store in this building, and he traded milk, eggs, and so on for groceries. We've seen the Valley Springs Hotel earlier. This hotel sat on the west side of the pit stop, just where Jay's Repair is now. Note the windmill on the left with the cast iron horse counterbalance. There's a young man on a horse to the left. This is the later Valley Springs Hotel that was located south of the store building on Elm Street. The building had 20 small rooms and seating for 30 in the dining room. 25 cents a meal, $1 a day, or $4 a week. This is a picture of the creamery. It was located to the northwest of Parker Automotive. There is still a hole in the ground out there. L.C. Christensen was a butter maker. It had a capacity of 20,000 pounds of milk a day with 2 alpha cream separators. The butter was graded as Western Extra. Mr. Christensen had a grocery store he sold to Anton Olson, and later a part of the Christensen, Jacobson, Ford, and Buick garage. He married the first white child born in the county. The first mail was brought by the Worthington to Sioux Falls stage bi-weekly. Jonathan Dunham was appointed the first postmaster in 1873. The post office was in his home. In 1906, rural free delivery was established, and Valley Springs had 2 mail routes. On the north mail route, mail went to the Palisade settlement and other settlements to the north. The south routes consisted of settlements near Larchwood and Inwood, Iowa. The mail was delivered by horse, buggy, motorcycle, and later by automobiles. Some patrons left bags of oats for the horse at Christmas time. At one time, the mail was sorted on the train between towns. This was the inside of the E.W. Schmidt hardware store. There are Acorn and Pennsylvania stoves. Dough pans in the stoves were used for kneading the bread prior to baking. They also had a standard line of hardware, sewing machines, harness, saddles, and so on. This is another shot of the hardware. There's a train conductor sitting in a chair at the rear. Also note the rope coming up through the floor at the lower right. The banner is advertising quick meal stoves.